Okay, so let's get started. Okay, is everybody okay? Everybody's ready to get going, right? So, hi, we are the Princeton Cross-Cultural Educational Service. We're referred to as PCCES. I hope you've heard of us before. We are an English as a second language tutoring session today. Today's session is an introduction to English pronunciation. And my name is Martin, and I'll be your tutor today. Okay, so I am Martin, and welcome everybody. So before we get started, what I usually like to do is have everybody introduce themselves for a variety of reasons. One, so I can hear you speak English, right? And secondly, so we all get to know one another. So let me begin, okay? So my name is Martin. I am the Chief Operating Officer of PCCES. I've spent 35 years in finance. I'm retired now, and I do this as part of my volunteering in the United States. I've worked with very large companies such as AT&T, AIG, Associated Press, Intralinks, which we took public in 2011, and we did a lot of business in China. I've also had either my own or worked for other smaller startups that either were purchased or we took public also. So the one startup that we had was with ESPN, which is a sports network. And that one melded into the Disney Corporation. And I do this now because one of the things is I found out about my own life is that spending 35 years in finance and just looking to make more and more money rather than contributing anything wasn't necessarily something I felt good about. So I feel good about this because I feel I'm helping people. I'm helping students, certainly. I'm helping open up additional opportunities because through English, we do open up opportunities for our students that they might not have in other environments. And we're also trying to create some cross-culturalism. So, for example, next Saturday, we're going to have a session with students that are our students from China, from Mexico, from Holland, from Japan, and we're going to have a forum in which we just talk to one another. And that's one of the things that we're looking to do is to create an environment where people can talk to one another from different cultures. Part of the other thing that we do here is we bring students from China, for example, to the United States, and we give them a cultural tour of the Northeast and some of the Ivy League universities. And of course, that would include Washington, D.C., New York City, and Boston. So that's who I am, and that's what we do. So why don't we go around and just your name and why you're interested in learning English, and tell us a little bit about yourself. So why don't we start with Anne?
I'm Anne, and Chinese name is Li Changyue. I'm a university teacher, and about for 10 years, I don't learn English. So maybe my pronunciation and some maybe now I can say a little English.
Sure.
So
sure.
I must learn some.
Okay, that's very good. Very good. I think you do speak very well. And your pronunciation, it's not your pronunciation, believe it or not. Your pronunciation is fine. It's more,
thank you.
I think it's more your confidence.
Thank you.
The more that you speak, right, the more that, and you know this from your teaching, right, it's repetition and muscle memory. So speech in and of itself is the formation of how your mouth forms the sounds. And
Okay.
and that's what causes pronunciation, right? So that's repetition and feedback and immediate feedback. So I think you do speak English. I think you just need to be more confident in your ability to speak English, and that comes with practice. So thank you for
Okay.
your introduction. So let's hear from Kara. Kara, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, can you
Hi.
hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I have a baby. So, oh, stop. I have learned English because I was a Chinese teacher before, Mandarin teacher, and then I taught many foreigners in Beijing. But after that, I went to a foreign trade company, and the CEO asked us to learn English every day. Every morning, we listen to the radio and follow the radio. And sometimes we report our work in English. So it's very important to my work. So I learned English. But I know that sometimes my pronunciation and something is not very local. So I want to learn more about pronunciation and any other things.
Right. So I think that you're hitting on a lot of points that are very important, right? Which number one is it's not necessarily that your pronunciation is wrong, right? That's not what it is. What it is that the way that we speak English, right? It's all connected speech. So if you were to hear, like right now I'm speaking, believe it or not, very slowly. But if you were to hear me speak, sometimes I could say a sentence and you might think it's one word unless you're fluent, and because coherency is a big part of communication, right? So it certainly has nothing to do with accent, right? It has nothing to do with accent. It has to do with how fluent are you and how are you connecting the words. That's what creates the flow in English, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But I think you hit on another important point, which is it's not just an educational endeavor, it's also a business endeavor. And that's what I was talking about before. It's opening up additional opportunities for people because exactly what you just said. In business right now uses English to a very large degree as the language of is the language of business. So if you're going to do business with the West, because of our we only, for the most part in the United States, certainly, we only speak one language, which is English, right? Very few of us speak more than one language. So it's important to do, if you're going to do business with the West, to be able to communicate. Where I see some difference, though, is that you can't learn English by listening to the radio or watching TV. I believe that that's a fallacy that a good many people are under. You'll learn to understand the words, right? But you won't learn to say the words, because what you hear and then what your mind thinks that your mouth is forming are two different things. And we'll run through that experience here today. So you think you're repeating the right words, right? But you're not. So what happens is that you wind up practicing the wrong sound. So if you hear the TV and it says a word like, I'm going to lull you to sleep, then you're not going to pronounce lull correctly, because lull is a very difficult word to pronounce because of that double L at the end of the word. So you're going to probably drop that, or you're going to pronounce it as an R. And you're going to practice it that way, right? Because that's what we do. We practice speech, repetition, repetition. Now, if you keep repeating the wrong pronunciation, it becomes a part of your language or your communication. So that's what we here at PCCES immediately do. So if you're in my class and you mispronounce a word, even though it's not the sound that we're working on, I would help you with that right away. The other thing that we do is we help you to form that word. So if you're trying, and I'll give you a classic example, and this has happened in several of my classes. In Chinese, you don't use the TH sound, right? It's non-existent, actually. So what happens? If you're a non-native English speaker or a native Chinese speaker and you try to say the word throw, your tongue doesn't come between your teeth, does it? No, you have to think about it, force your tongue to come between, because it's not a natural sound in Chinese. We teach that. So we will help you to recognize that when you see a TH or you're going to say the TH, your tongue must, where it must be, how you pronounce it, how you enunciate. And those are the things that we do, and it's immediate. As I see you, and that's why I have you sit near the screen and certainly not below it, because I need to see the mouth and how you form the sounds. Another example is children. And I'm sure I can see you have a baby, right? How do children speak to you? They speak like this half the time. They're covering their mouth. You can't see their mouth, right? That's an exercise in itself, is getting them to communicate with you in a way that you can help them. So children, we teach differently, right? We sit them, we talk to them. We have to get them to communicate, get them comfortable, right? I mean, we're strangers to them, right? We have to get them comfortable. And all of our tutors are native English speakers. So, it may be somebody that they've never seen before. Of course, they're going to be a little bit, maybe reluctant to speak. On the other hand, you have kids that are, all they want to do is speak. And all they want to do is speak the entire time. So and as teachers, you would know this, that, sometimes you have to control the kids, and there's a way to do it and a way not to do it. Because the last thing you want to do is temper that enthusiasm. You have to encourage the enthusiasm and the desire to learn. So these are things, like I said, that we would do, and I do that with adults also, by the way, because I want you to learn, and I enjoy when, I have to tell you, there's no feeling better than when you can't pronounce, for example, a TH, and all of a sudden at the end of the session, you're pronouncing it, and by the next session, because you've practiced it, it's starting to become part of your coherency, right? And the way that you pronounce words. It's a great feeling for both of us. So I just want to say that that is what we do, and I appreciate certainly the business aspect of what you were saying, because that's huge. Because I can tell you, if I was in business and I'm listening to a presentation by somebody who's not a native speaker, doesn't bother me. However, if their pronunciation is so bad that their coherency isn't there, I stop listening to the presentation, because I'm trying to figure out what is it that they're saying, right? So you don't want to be in that situation where people are trying to figure out, what it is you're trying to say rather than what point you're trying to make, right? So that's why, to your point, it's very important. So thank you. And Lisa, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Xia Li. My English name is Lisa. I'm a university teacher. I like teaching, reading, and traveling. I also like doing housework, such as learning rooms. Actually, I don't like extreme sports. While I prefer yoga and spend time doing that when I'm free. Although it's not long before I got to know and express yoga, I feel in love with it because it can make me relaxing and space and peace.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. So what kind of students do you teach? Lisa, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Lisa? What
Hello.
are you, Lisa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So you said you were a teacher?
Yes, I'm teacher.
What do you teach?
Publishing.
Oh, you teach publishing. Wow,
Yes.
that's got to be interesting. I have a friend of mine who is he's been well, I don't know if maybe you don't know these magazines, but you know, Esquire, GQ, what were the Cosmopolitan. These are he's the publisher for all of these magazines. So it's really but are you on the advertising? Do you teach the advertising side or do you teach the editorial side? Publishing has two aspects, right? You can either be on the advertising side, which is selling advertising to other companies, and that's what keeps your magazine afloat, for example. And then you have the editorial side, which is the creative or the writing side. Do you teach the creative side of publishing or the business side of publishing?
他问的是，就是咱们出版教的是创作性的还是商业性的？
哦，
就是大概是这个意思。Yes。
创作性的书。
他刚刚说是 create。
Oh, the creative.
Create.
Very good. So you're on the creative side. That's very good. That's an interesting thing. I'm completely not creative. I wish I were more creative, but I'm just not. So why don't we get started with the session, and let's just understand what my objective is today. My objective is to just help you communicate a little bit more clearly and confidently today and effectively, right? So we're going to be doing an introduction. We'll go through some subjects. Obviously, we can't go into it in as much depth as we ordinarily would, right? Because it's an introduction. But just so that you're aware, the goal of any of the sessions that we do is not to eliminate an accent, right? That's not, again, that's a fallacy that many people have. Accents are part of who we are, and we don't try to eliminate that. So, for example, I have an accent, right? If you listen to my English, the English that I speak is Northeast America, which is completely different from Southern America, which is completely different from Western America. Now, we understand each other because we know the words, we're used to hearing the sounds that we all make. But if you were to listen to somebody today from Alabama, which is in the South, right, the likelihood is you wouldn't understand them because they speak English completely different. The syntax is different. So I speak this way, right? In the South, they might speak this way, right? Be completely different. In Chinese, for example, you speak this way, right? It's almost choppy. In America, in English, our words connect or should connect straight through. Like right now, I'm speaking slowly. So you won't hear it as much, but if I were to speak the way I normally speak, you would actually, an entire sentence would sound like one word. So it's a little bit difficult, but it's something that we teach. We teach connected speech, right? So, but we don't try to eliminate an accent, right? What we try to help you with is to be coherent and make yourself understood, so that when you're giving a presentation, when you're teaching students, when you're traveling, you're able to communicate and make yourself understood rather than have them focused on, like, what is he trying to say, you know? And I've had that situation. I've been in other countries where I was lost and I couldn't find anybody who spoke English. Okay, now what do I do, right? It's difficult because I didn't speak the language very well. So the way that we design our course, and since most of you are teachers, you understand that when you teach a course, the student needs to know what they're being taught, right? So if you don't tell them, today we're studying X, their mind is all over the place because they're not focused on studying that. Well, in PCCES, one of the things that we do is we tell you, today we're going to study this. We're going to focus on this sound. Doesn't mean that we don't work on other things, but we're focusing on that, right? So I would tell you today we're going to work on R's, right? It's somewhat difficult sound to make for non-native English speakers. And then I'm going to have the student apply the sound. So I'm going to ask you to, you know, say words that have an R in them, right? Now you may get good at saying those individual words. But now how do you pronounce that sound? How do you make that sound in that word when it's combined with other words, right? People get stuck. I had students yesterday, in fact, with the word vanilla, right? You have an N and an L, two sounds that are often mixed up, right? And invariably, what I was hearing was, I like vanilla ice cream versus vanilla ice cream. But if you ask the student to say vanilla, they will say vanilla. Why is that? Because of the connection to other words. The focus wasn't there because you're pronouncing other words. So that's what we try to do. We try to get you focused. At the beginning, when you're learning, you're focused on the sound, you're focused on what your mouth is doing. Eventually, through practice, and we do practice a lot, through practice, you start to form those sounds, and you'll see it, and you'll start to feel what that sound is. Like when you make an L, when you feel your tongue going to the alveolar ridge right behind your teeth, you feel it there, versus an R that doesn't touch the ridge, it just curls back. You feel the difference, right? Well, that's what we want. Eventually, it becomes just a part of normal speech. So I know that I'm speaking a lot today, but that's just because I want to introduce you to how we're going to progress. And then, by the way, we go through a lot of exercises, a lot of tongue twisters, which again, focus you in on the sound you're making. Before any session that I give or we give, we send out what the next session is going to cover. After the session, we send out the practice for the session we had, so that you get the opportunity. And by the way, we also send the video of the session so that as you're practicing, you actually can see, you'll see me and you'll see you forming the words so that you can practice the sounds correctly. Because the worst thing you could do is practice so hard, and you're a great student, but if you're practicing the wrong sound, then you're going to get the wrong result, right? So that's how we operate. So let's begin. So today, for this session, and like I said, it's an introductory session, we're going to talk about the words that end in consonants. Now, in Chinese, particularly in Chinese, because words don't usually end in a consonant, right? You tend to add a sound. So instead of saying, I made, a Chinese native speaker tends to say, I made a. So there's a small o, small a added to a sound, which could confuse somebody that you're talking to, but we'll talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about the R sound, right, which is a difficult sound because your tongue comes up and curls, but never touches your palate or the alveolar ridge, right? So when you say R, it's like growling. Your tongue doesn't touch. It just curls a little bit, right? Growl. So we're going to talk about the L, which is a little different. So instead of curling, your tongue shoots out and touches right behind your top teeth. Here's the R. Here's the L, right? Those are the things that confuse non-native speakers. We'll talk a little bit about the TH. Hopefully we'll have enough time. And the TH is a sound that you make, which you don't make in any of the Chinese dialects, where your tongue actually comes between your teeth, your upper and lower teeth, to form a sound. And it could be voiced, which is where the sound is coming from your throat, like the, right? Versus throw, which doesn't have a sound, right? So that's just air coming through the sides of your teeth as your tongue is between your teeth. So there, these are the things that we teach that you just don't think about. You see somebody on TV and they say, I'm going to throw the ball. And you think you're throwing, but the likelihood is that you're saying, I'm going to throw the ball, like an S or a Z, because your tongue doesn't normally come out because it's just not a sound that you've made throughout your life. And then, of course, there's the V and W differences, especially the V, right? Because the V, if you don't say V and it's a voice sound, it's your top teeth on your lower lip, and it vibrates. It's almost uncomfortable to your nose because it vibrates your nose. But if you don't voice that sound, like V, and you just blow air, that's an F. It's a completely different sound. And when we go through minimal pairs, which we do go through, you'll see that if you don't make the right sound, you're saying a different word. And in some instances, that different word could be pretty embarrassing. I'll give you an example. Here's a word in Chinese, ma, right? Ma. Depending on the tone that you put on that word, I could be calling mother or I could be saying horse, right? So I could say ma, 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 or there's another one in there, or just straight ma, right? One of those is horse. One of them means mother. So if I'm not using the right tone on that word, I might be calling somebody's mother a horse. These are the things that are in Chinese that I never knew about. So there are similar things in English that if you're not aware of, you can run into trouble, especially because in English, the spelling doesn't always dictate how it's pronounced, right? You could spell a word a certain way and it's pronounced completely different. The only way you know that is because you've learned it or somebody's told you how to pronounce it. So let's get moving, and let's begin with words that end in a consonant. So there are three of you on in this session today. I'm going to post something to your chat box, okay? So I hope you can see this. It should be there in a second. Nope, it didn't go there. Okay, let me do everyone. Let's try it again. Okay, can you see this on your chat box now? Or did it not go? Not yet, okay. So you should see it. There you go. Okay, so somehow I think we lost Anne. Okay, so now there are three of us, and hopefully Anne can join us again. Can you see what's in your chat box now? Can you see it? Do you see it in your chat box? Olivia?
Yes.
Can you help me here? Can you point them to the chat box?
OK， 你们把那个聊天的窗口都打开，然后 Martin 在里边发了那个咱们一会儿要用的那个材料。
Do you see that? Do you see your chat box? Did you ask them to open their chat box?
Yes， 老师你看到了吗？
Oh, you know what? If it wasn't open, let me paste it one more time, and that should do it. Okay. Do you see it now?
I see it.
Okay.
Anne is frozen.
Anne is frozen. I know. I saw her drop. So if you can't see it, it's going to be really hard to to do this exercise. So do you have your chat boxes open? I guess that's the first
他
question.
们打开了。老师，你们把那个聊天窗口打开了吗？西雅老师。
不就是聊天那个吗？
对对对，他在里边敲了那个一长串的那个英文，你看到了吗？
没有啊，我看到谁说 I can see。
Okay,
上边呢？上边。
Because I over there 吗？
对对对，那1、2、3、4你能看到吗？对，
看到了。
Okay,
对
you see it?
Martin?
Yeah?
Okay.
All right. So let's do this. Kara, can you speak, or is the baby asleep? Because you're on mute. Let me unmute you. Okay. So you can speak now?
Yeah, I can speak.
Okay. So why don't we do this? You'll be number 1 in the chat box. You see that?
Okay, I see.
You'll be number 1. Lisa, you'll be number 2, right?
Yes, I see.
And then I'll be number 3, and then we just keep going in that order, okay? Because this is a dialogue, and this is going to help with how we speak, okay? So why don't you begin, Kara?
Okay. I've waited a long time for this vacation. Really?
Lisa?
Well, Raven, I have to. That's why I want to wander around the mountain twice for a while.
Okay. Wait a minute, Willie. Mount Vesuvius will be a real waste of time. Okay, now, Lisa, your number, Kara, you're number 4 now.
Oh, number 4?
Yeah.
Okay. What are you saying? It's one of the world's most wonderful sports.
Very good. Very good.
Then I'll be the number 1, right?
Now you're going to be number 1 again. Yes.
Okay. Willie, why don't we visit Washington or Las Vegas instead?
Very good.
I never want to visit the United States. It's way too expensive.
Okay. You're right. I wonder what Asia would be like.
Asia? No, that's a clever idea. How about Taiwan, Willie?
Taiwan would be wonderful. Vivian.
Are you sure you don't want to go to the United States, Willie?
Because I already bought the tickets.
Okay. So this dialogue, what that does, and by the way, Kara, your connected speech is outstanding. What you're doing, the way that you speak and the way that you spoke these lines, you could see that your speech is like this. And what that does is it forces your pronunciation to be correct and your coherency to be very high versus low. So when we speak the way that you spoke just now, right, if you listened to the way that we were having the conversation, that's connected speech. Now, what I did notice is a good amount of additional sounds. So this is good, and that's why we have these dialogues or a reading at times. So, like I said earlier, and I hope that when you read and when you see the video, because we will send you the video, when you see it, listen to the way that you're pronouncing words, listen to the way that you're putting the words together, and you'll see that when you start to, and you know, Lisa, you did it too. When you put those words together conversationally, they're pronounced, they're automatically, it's almost automatic that they get pronounced, you know, closer to the correct pronunciation. Where we have to be careful, of course, is not to add additional sounds. Now, in Mandarin, for example, syllables or words never end with consonants, right? So that's why these sounds are, and it becomes a little choppier, and the extra sound gets added in. So let's practice this set of words, right? And you know, there are an awful lot of these practice exercises that we're not going to be able to get to today, but this gives you an example of what some of these words are like, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So, Kara, why don't you read that first line?
Sorry.
Do you see it in your chat box?
Oh, yeah.
Martin.
Yes.
Chris is in our session. Chris.
Yes. I don't see him though.
Oh, okay.
So, Kara, can you read that first line for me?
First line. Okay. Dive, love, breathe.
Very good. And Lisa, could you read the second line?
Yes.
It starts with morgue. Do you see it? Do you see it? It begins with the word morgue.
第二行
Well 呢吗 ？Well where 呢吗？
不是是 morgue 那个
The second line. The
我没找到
second.
那个地方。
聊天里的。
聊天窗口能看见吗？
那里面好多，我感觉
好多单词，然后你念第二行 M 开头那个。
单词啊。
对，你往下坠到最下边。
Okay, so let me help you. You see it?
就是这五拉五下面那个呗。
对。
Morgue.
Yes.
Rogue, bag.
Right. So the words are actually morgue, rogue, and bag. So try that one more time.
Morgue, rogue, bag.
Right. Okay. So remember that. Now, Anne, can you try the third line? Can you see that in your chat box?
OK. Hide, food, rude.
Okay. So with there are two, Lisa and Kara. Actually, not Kara. Lisa and Anne. So when we pronounce H in English, it's not a guttural sound. It doesn't vibrate your throat. So it's never right. All it is air coming through. So it's right. Never. It's always so. For example, hide would be pronounced hide. It's just air coming through. Hide. Could you say that for me?
Hide.
Yeah, you see how you're still scraping a little bit on the H? Hide. The throat is open and air is coming through. That's all that's happening.
Hide.
Yeah, you still it's a guttural sound. It's the way that if you were speaking German, that's how you would make the sound. But in English, we never make a guttural sound. So it's just air coming through. So, but just to speed things up, H is one of those words where we have a session on H because that is a difficult sound. So the rest of the words there, and you'll see these when I send out the post. Are words that you would practice. Now, but let me show you how that's applied, okay? So, if we were to read, let's just go through these three lines here. Now, again, look in your chat box, and you'll see them. Do you see that? 6 little markers are all standing in a line. They said, let's draw a picture and make it mighty fine. Red jumped for joy as he leaped across the sky. That's how I would read it. Now, what I'd like you to do is each of you take one line. So let's start. with Kara. Kara, can you say the first line?
Yeah, I can. No, I read it, right?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay. 6 little markers were standing in a line.
Okay. So here, this is a difficult sound. It's little, right? So because it's an L at the end of a word, a non-native speaker, because the tongue is supposed to come out and touch the alveolar ridge, that little ridge behind your teeth right there, or the back of your teeth. Because it's supposed to come out and touch, what happens in non-native speaker, it never actually makes contact, right? So rather than, let me see how I do this because this is hard. Okay, so instead of the tongue coming up and touching like this with just the tip, not the sides, just the tip, what happens is it comes up but it never touches. Or it curls like an R, and that's what happened on your little. So don't let that happen in terms of when you pronounce the L at the end of a word. And the reason for that, by the way, it's a very simple reason. In Chinese, you would never have this situation. This situation will never occur in Chinese where the word ends in an L, right? So your tongue isn't used to ending a word with a consonant. So you have to actually get used to closing, and causing a stoppage, because that's what a consonant is, actually stopping some of the air from flowing through. And again, you're not going to learn this in one day. You're not going to learn this in one session, right? This is repetition. But you start to become aware of these things. So try it again, but focus on the word little so that your tongue actually pronounces that last L. Go ahead, Kara.
Oh, I said, I read it again, right?
Yes, please.
6 little markers were standing in a line.
Right. Did you hear how you said it this time? You said little correctly. Now, little, you said it correctly. You know where you didn't say it correctly now? It was in the last word.
I'm sorry.
You didn't say it correctly in the last line here, in the last word. Now, line is an incredibly difficult word to pronounce. And why is that? Because it's an L and you're going into an I. That diphthong is one of the hardest combinations you're going to find in English for a Chinese native speaker. The L and the I, what happens is very often you turn it into an N. Now, I have spent about 3 weeks with a woman from Shanghai trying, not trying, but we've actually corrected it. And I have an exercise for that, and we can go through it at some point. But it's line. So you're going from L to ein. So it's a difficult sound, but try that just one more time. 6 little markers all standing in a line.
6 little markers were standing in a line. That's right?
Yeah, you were very close to the line, but it still comes out almost as a 9. And what happens is that because your tongue isn't used to that, you actually block all of the sound from coming through your mouth, and you drive it through your nasal to turn it into an N. So this is an exercise that requires repetition so that your tongue doesn't block all of this sound. And again, this is something that takes a great deal of repetition because you're teaching your tongue to do something different. And we would go through that extensively. So Lisa, can you say the next line? And the next line is, they said, let's draw a picture and make it mighty fine.
They said, let's draw a picture and make it mighty fine.
That was excellent. That was very good. I love the tone that you used. You spoke English there. That was perfect English. I don't know if you heard it. I heard it clearly. And when you see the video, you'll see this is what and that's English. That's how we speak English. If you listen to me, except that I do it like this really fast. But you did exactly what you need to do. 6 little markers standing in a line. They said, let's draw a picture and make it mighty fine. We do that. So that was really good. So now, Anne, can you say the third line?
Okay. Red jumped for joy as he leaped across the sky.
Okay, try it one more time.
Red jumped for joy as he leaped across the sky.
One more time.
Red jumped for joy as he leaped across the sky.
Okay, so all 3 times, here's what I heard. Red jumped for joy. So that sound, that extra sound that we were talking about is there. Why? Because it ends in a vowel, in a consonant, not a natural state. So because you're a native Chinese speaker, you want to end your syllables in a vowel. You want to do that because that's what that's everything that you speak ends in a vowel, except for N or NG sometimes, but always. So you want to say jumped. You want to say that. In English, we don't say that. We just end it at the D. We say jumped, and that's it. So red jumped for joy. And when you connect jumped for, right? Jump for, right? It's almost like you're saying one word. It doesn't give you the opportunity to add that sound. Now, in this case, it's not such a bad deal, right? So you said red jumped for joy. Okay. However, what that does is it triggers, if you were giving a presentation, it triggers like, wait a minute, that's not right. And all of a sudden my focus is off what you were saying and it's going to something that you didn't need to, drive focus from. So these are the types of things that as you get used to it, especially the consonant at the end of a word, you get used to, okay, wait a minute, jump, next word, right? Instead of jumped up, next word. It's jump, next word. So this is what, in pronunciation, this is what we teach. We teach connected speech. So let's just continue. So by the way that you would actually say that is jumped, right? You're actually, that D, right, actually becomes a T. But that's something that we would go through that in the full session on connected speech. But that it's never pronounced jumped, right? It's just not, because the P is an unvoiced sound, right? D is a voice sound. In English, we never have those two together. So that D becomes a T. Again, not something that you should know, something that you will know when we go through this, because that's a good exercise in understanding how those letters change. Again, English, difficult because the way that you read it isn't the way that you pronounce it, right? So I'm not interested, for example, IELTS, right? When you take that test, it's pronunciation, it's coherency, it's all of those things, right? What's the most important thing? Coherency, that you be understood. So when you go through that, for any IELTS test, for example, I know that you learned how to read in English. I know you understand English. It's how you pronounce the words. That's what I'm focused on, how you're stringing and how you're conversing, right? That's what we teach here, conversation and coherency. So that's an easy one to fix, and we would fix that. So let's go to the R sound, right? So the R sound, for anybody that has difficulty, what's the easiest way to pronounce an R, right? R. If you see me pronounce an R, my tongue is curling. It's doing this. I'm running, but I'm never touching, because that's going to be an L. I'm running. I'm curling the tip of my tongue, right? The easiest way to teach this is to tell you to growl like a lion. When you do that sound, that's making an R. You're making an R when you growl, right? Like a lion. So I would teach this, and I would say to you, say the word run, right? So you're going to growl. You're going to say run, right? So and eventually, once you're used to curling that tongue and not touching, you're going to be making the perfect R because you're going to be running. You're going to be saying running instead of running, but it's the same sound, the same formation. Your mouth gets used to that. It gets the tongue gets used to the curl versus touching the top, which would be an L. So these are things that we would learn. It's fun when you teach kids, especially. So if you're teaching, children, and you get them to growl like a lion, they're having a great time. That's all they want to learn. That whole day, they just want to learn R's because they can just growl all day long, right? So even though you're teaching them a different letter, they want to growl. So it's fun. Kids are fun that way. So let's continue though. So when we, again, growl, so here's an exercise. Now I've skipped quite a bit of this, but try this. I want you each to try this one sentence. Now this is a tongue twister. This is one of the exercises that we would do. These are very difficult because what they do is they focus you in on the sound, right? There is no way on earth you make this sentence, you can say this sentence unless you focus in on the sounds. So let's start with "and" this time. And can you say that? Do you see it? And do you see that in your chat box? Ray's Ruth's red roof. And can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you say that sentence? Ray, Ruth, red roof.
Yes, Ruth, red roof.
Can you say it one more time, please?
Yes, Ruth, red roof.
Okay, it's Ray's.
Raise.
So you would say, I would ask you to growl that. Raise.
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 Right, you're saying the R correctly, by the way. That's not where the problem is in the transition, because it glides into that diphthong, that AI sound. You're gliding into it. You're not putting another sound in between. So you're just going from the R sound to the A sound, right? Raise.
Raise.
And the way you do that, by the way, A is A. It's an E and an E. So you're gonna smile when you say that A. So it's raise. Raise.
Raise.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly how that's pronounced. Raise. So you smile. Yeah, you smile when you say it. It forces you to say raise. One more time.
Raise.
Yes.
Yes.
Now try the next word. Ruth's.
Ruth.
No, you're gonna have to start with the R. Ruth.
Ruth.
Yeah. Now there you have that TH sound combined with an S, and that's a session in itself. TH, the tongue must come out between the teeth, right? So then it would be, if it's just one Ruth, it would be Ruth, right? Right? So it's Ruth. Now, right, so you're saying that correct. Now, you're saying it correctly. Now, you have to go to the S at the end of that. And how does that happen? Without stopping the sound of the TH, right? You're going from Ruth, and you're just pulling your tongue back, and that forces the S. So it's Ruth, right? It's Ruth's. Yes, that's it. That's an incredibly difficult combination to do. That TH and an S, because your tongue is out, and because TH isn't a normal sound or a usual sound in Chinese, and now you're ending a word in a consonant, that's even harder. So those are the types of exercise that require repetition. But you can see that to get from a TH, which is not a common sound, or in fact, it's not a sound that you make in Chinese. So to get from that to the S, right, just the tip of your tongue comes out like that, you're kind of biting the tip of your tongue, right? And you're just blowing air out, right? And then you pull your tongue in and it becomes the S. So it's, there it is. And you were saying it correctly. So that's a good thing. So now, Lisa, can you say this? Raise Ruth's red roof.
Raise Ruth's red roof.
All right. So can you do me a favor and angle your camera, because I can't see your mouth when you say it.
Raise Ruth's red roof.
Right. Can you? I need to be able to see. I need to be able to see your mouth. I can't see your
把你
mouth.
嘴露出来，把嘴露出来。
Yeah. Thank you.
Raise Ruth's red roof.
That was perfect. I saw your formation on the TH. Perfect. You see? Could you say it one more time?
Ruth.
Yeah. Now, Anne, did you see the way she pronounced the TH? Say it one more time, please. Can you pronounce Ruth one more time? Lisa?
Ruth.
Did you see?
Ruth.
Her tongue is right there between her teeth. She's blowing air. She's making the perfect TH. And that's what we would strive for. See, when you're pronouncing, and when you pronounce the TH, you have the tip, but you also have the size of your tongue, which isn't incorrect. It's just going to be more difficult for you to transition out of it. So again, things that we teach. Kara, can you say that sentence?
Yes. Raise Ruth's red roof.
Okay. I know that you have the baby there. Can you? Yeah. I can't see you though. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Read again, right?
Yes, please.
Raise Ruth's red roof.
Very good. Very good. So, and there's a bunch of these, but we're not going to go through them because I really do want to do just a little bit more on some of the other ones. So here's something about the L, right? Remember we talked about that it's really difficult to go from an R to an L? Well, just pronouncing the L is difficult because that's another sound that's not that common. So let's, and this is the L sound in different locations. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste the whole thing here, and it's going to show you the phoneme, but you don't have to worry about that. That's for my purposes. So just read the words, light, lace, lead, okay? So, Kara, can you say that first line?
Yeah. Okay, read it. Okay. Night, lace, lead, love, none.
Okay. Did you hear that first word? Can you say it one more time?
Night.
Okay. Lisa, can you say that sentence? That first set of words?
Light. Light.
Yes.
Light.
Okay.
Love. Learn.
Right. Okay. And Anne, can you say that first line?
Yes. Let, list, lead, love, learn.
Okay. So here, Kara, I want you to watch Anne pronounce these words. Anne, can you do that one more time, please? Anne? Yes.
The first line.
Yeah, though not the first. Yeah, that first line, the one that you just read. Could you repeat that?
Let, list, lead, love, learn.
Okay. So, Kara, did you see what Anne did? She pronounced the words correctly. Now, when you pronounced light, you pronounced night. You hear the difference between light and night? The reason for that is if you watch Anne, she has the tip of her tongue going up, but the sides don't come up, right? So it's just the tip. In your case, you raised your entire tongue up and blocked all the sound from coming through. And what that does is it turns it into an N, right? Because an N is a nasal sound. It comes through your nose. And the only way it can come through your nose is if you block the sound with your tongue. So if it's just the tip and the air comes out through the sides or the sound comes out, that's an L. So let's try it one more, and it's very difficult, by the way, because the LI is a tough transition. So just try light.
Light.
See, when you're focused on it and you're focused on just the tip of your tongue, it'll come out correctly. So, and that's the purpose of that particular line, by the way, because that LI at the beginning is very difficult. So let's try to see, I want to see what happens when it's at the end. So let's go to the third line. So, Anne, can you take that third line?
Okay. Third. The third line. Okay. Recall, fall, roll, available, identical.
Very good. Lisa?
Recall, fall, roll, available, identical.
Very good. Kara?
Record, full, roll, available, identical.
Okay. So, Kara, you have difficulty with the L, and we could work on that. That's where your difficulty resides. It's in the L, because your tongue isn't used to making that sound. If you watch Lisa and you watch Anne, their L's are formed exactly the way they need to be formed, right? So that's where you're having a little bit of difficulty, because your L's are turning into R's, because you're not extending the tongue to get it to the little ridge behind your teeth. It's called the alveolar ridge. You don't need to know that, but it needs to be extended. That's practice, right? Because it's the only way that you can change pronunciation is by pronouncing it correctly over and over and over again. So just be aware that that's an area that you can use some work on. Let's try this particular sentence here. And again, this is a tongue twister, but it really is helpful when we do these exercises, because it forces you to focus on the sound. So, Anne, can you say this sentence here?
Yes.
Anne?
I can see it.
No, say it. Say it.
See it. Oh. Lisa loves Laurie a lot.
Very good. Very good. Lisa?
Lisa
loves Larry a lot.
Very good. Very good. And Kara?
Lisa loves Larry a lot.
Perfect. You see, it's not always just the sound. Sometimes it's the sound as it's combined with the next sound, right? That makes it that much more difficult, because in that sentence, you had no LIs. So you weren't going to have a problem. And I knew that. So here's a different sentence, right? So if we try this one, I want you to try this one. Kara, try this sentence.
Okay. I like to learn languages.
Okay, so that LI was there, and yet you were able to pronounce it because you're focused on it now, and that's what repetition does, is it focuses you. Well, Anne and Lisa, you have no problem there, so that's a good thing. So let's this is where it gets a little bit more difficult, okay? And that's where you have both sounds working together. So I know that I'm running over. I hope you don't mind, and I will end this soon, but I do want to get at least through this. So Anne, can you do this sentence for me, please?
Laura and Laurie rarely lure their roosters to sleep.
Okay, so now you know why it's called a tongue twister, right? Because that's hard to say. That is really hard to say, right? So Laura and Larry rarely lull their rural roosters to sleep. There's a lot going on there. So you have connected speech where instead of saying Laura in English, right, in American English especially, you don't say really Laura and Larry. rarely lull their rural roosters to sleep. That Laura and Larry, did you hear what I just said? Laura and Larry, that's one word, because the and is never pronounced. It's just the N sound that gets pronounced. So it's Laura and Larry. It's Laura and Larry. Laura and Larry. Laura and Larry. It's almost one word. That's how we speak, and that's why it's connected speech, but it's also why it makes it easy to pronounce. Because, you know, you added a little A after and. What you said was Laura and Larry. Did you hear the Laurie and right? It's not Laurie and Larry. It's, if you read it, it's Laura and Larry, not and. The way I pronounce it, there's no and in there. It's just an N, Laura and Larry. So it makes it easier to speak English, or certainly American English, when we use combined connected speech. And again, you're not going to learn that in 15, 20 minutes. It takes time and repetition and practice and exercises that you can then go out and practice again. But I just wanted to show you that. Now, Lisa, can you say that sentence for me?
Laura and Larry really rule their rural roosters to sleep.
Okay, this is a hard sentence. Now, one incredible thing that you did there was Laura and Larry. That was perfect. Laura and Larry. That's connected speech. That's American. That's perfect. Where you run into a little problem, which is very, 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 I can't emphasize the very common, is the rarely. That's a very difficult word, right? I mean, that's a hard word for an American to say. Rarely. That word shouldn't even be allowed, right? Rarely. Lull, an incredibly difficult word, believe it or not. Lull, right? That's a really hard one. There's a bunch of L's in there with a diphthong in the middle that, wow, that hurts your tongue. They're rural. I mean, think of how hard that word is. Rural, right? But what this sentence does is it focuses you straight in on those various pronunciations. So, Kara, can you say this sentence?
Okay. Laura and Larry lure their roosters to sleep.
Right. So you did the same thing. You added a sound to and. What you said was Laura and Larry, right? Rather than Laura and Larry or Laura and Larry. Rarely. The word here, by the way, lull. Okay, it's lull. Can you say that, Kara? Lull?
Lull.
Right, you said it. You said it. All right, how about you, Lisa? Can you say lull? Lisa, can you say lull?
Lull.
Yeah, it's a hard word. That L, that double L, is you're actually saying lull.
Lull.
That's one of the words that you do add almost a sound to. That's one where you say rarely lull. Lull.
Lull.
Yeah. Now the first one is an L too, though. So you have to say lull. You have to come back to the L, right? That's why it's hard. So, but these are, again, it's practice. There's no way, I mean, when I put this in here, I put it in there because it's so difficult. And it emphasizes the difficulty in some of these pronunciations. So, Anne, would you try that for me? Anne?
This sentence.
Yes.
Laura and Larry rarely lure their roosters to sleep.
That's very good. It's roosters, but that was very good. You actually got the really difficult one. So that's great, right? So again, it's focusing, and it's not just like today, right? I mean, we could read this, we can read every one of these exercises and get them correct. It's a matter of making it part of your English speech, right? So that you're not thinking about forming the sounds. But the only way you get there is by initially focusing on the sound repeating the sound correctly, of course, making sure that you're pronouncing it correctly, eventually putting it into sentences, even if you're overpronouncing the words, even if you're stopping to break down a word into syllables so that you can pronounce each syllable correctly, eventually speeding it up into connected speech, and eventually you don't even think about how you say it. But again, you don't do that in 15 minutes. You don't do that in, an hour. You do this over time. You do this as you're watching TV. I tell people, watch TV, watch English TV, and answer them when they speak, Just don't do it when you're around other people because they're going to think you're crazy, right? So you do it when you're alone. But it's okay if they think you're crazy because what they think doesn't matter. You're the one that's speaking English, right? So with that, I think I have to end the session because there really is quite a bit more that I wanted to go through. But I think I wanted you to get a flavor for what we do here at PCCES, which is we focus in, especially pronunciation, we try to help you form the words properly. We help you to connect those words so that when you speak, and forget the accent. Accents, like I said, I have an accent, I have a Northeast accent. If I go to the South, when I was in college, my girlfriend was from Alabama. That's why I always use the example. And most of our conversation was, what? What did you say? Could you repeat that? Because I didn't know what she was saying. She didn't understand what I was saying. But we eventually got our pronunciations to the point where we understood each other. That's what's important, the communication, right? Ultimately, by the way, we had to break up because I was from the North and she was from the South. And back then it wasn't, it wasn't something that was done ordinarily. But anyway, it's communication and how we communicate. That's what we teach. We try to make it a comfortable environment. We try to help you as much as we can, given the time frames, and then we turn it over to you. And I will tell you, you can pronounce this today, but if you don't practice it, you won't be able to pronounce it tomorrow. So watch the video, do the exercises. Next week, the first thing that would happen is we would review this week's. And if you're still having difficulty, we will continue to work on that every week until you no longer have difficulty. I can tell you THs, WVs, R's, L's, especially that LI combination, those are incredibly difficult. I try to teach that at the beginning, so that gives me time to improve your speech. It gives me time to help you to for it to become almost natural. It won't become natural until you've spoken over and over and over, right? But that's what practice is. So I just want to thank you very much for participating today. I hope that, I hopefully shared something of value. I hope that it's something that you're interested in. I hope it's something that you can actually tell other people, hey, this might help you, or it might help you yourself. This isn't the only thing that we offer, of course. We offer conversation sessions. We offer cultural sessions. We offer conversation in a cultural environment. We offer a type of English corner, which you're all familiar with at your universities, but it's a cross-cultural one. So I think I mentioned this at the beginning, where next week we're going to have one we're going to mix students from Mexico, from China, Japan, Holland, and I don't even know where else because I'm not the one putting it together. But it's going to be interesting to see how the cultures, the different cultures, speak to one another, and it all has to be in English, right? It's all totally immersive, as is this session, except that we always try to have somebody, especially somebody like Olivia, on the screen with us. Because clearly I don't speak Chinese. I know how to say ni hao, sai chen, and shay shay. That's about it. So, and that's because we meet a lot in restaurants in the area, and it's always nice to be able to do that. So anyway, thank you very much for participating. I will send you the video so that you'll have it. And like I said, I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed your time with me. And I would love it if I could see you folks again. All righty? So bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you for
See you
participating.
next time.
Yes, I hope so. Bye-bye.